Welcome back to the Erin Coop podcast. So, we are living in a time of really profound transition. I'm sure you can sense it. Things feel heavy, they feel difficult, they feel murky. Not a lot makes sense. There's this division everywhere. And so, this transition that we're moving through individually, collectively, and globally is a shift. And I'm going to go deeper into what that shift is. Everything around us is shifting: industries, economies, leadership, even how we define success and fulfillment. Whether you recognize it or not, you are actually transitioning right now. And so am I. Maybe you're transitioning in your career, your leadership style, your mindset, your relationships, your weight loss journey, your parenting woes. The challenge is transition is not just about external change. It's about an internal process. How we move through it determines whether we evolve intentionally or we struggle resistantly. In my work with tons of executives and leaders and my own work on myself, I have seen this so many times. Companies evolve, markets shift, priorities change, but people put their dukes up. They resist. Put on the boxing gloves. This is not happening. No way. I am going to stay right where I am. I am who I am, and I resist change. Because people want and crave clarity before moving forward with anything. They want certainty before taking action. If they want to leave a relationship, they want to know that there's another one lined up that's going to be better. They want to know for certain that the grass will be greener if they leave the job and they don't have the other one lined up right away. Or if they leave the job and they do have the other one lined up, but they're just not certain how it's going to go. And so do they take the risk? But transition does not work that way. It is messy. It is uncomfortable. And for many, transition can feel really unsettling. There is so much uncertainty and often a longing for clinging to what was, wanting to go backwards, wanting to stay where you are, wanting to go back to the good old days. Sound familiar? But what if I told you this? Transition is not something to fear. It is something to be embraced. This episode is about how we consciously move through transition. It is about more than change. It's about the totality of the experience of who you are moving through change, not by resisting, but by transforming the very essence of who you are to meet the times ahead. If you feel like you're in between what was and what's next, either personally or professionally or in your relationships, this episode is for you. Today, we're diving deep into how people experience transition, the ways it shows up, and how we can navigate it with awareness and with intention. So when I talk about transition, I often think about an external change, and I know that's what most people think. So starting there, external change, new job, shift in business, a personal change. The real work of transition happens on the inside. So your old identity dissolves before your new identity is fully formed. You find some parts of yourself maybe unrecognizable, or you find others maybe unconscionable. Meanwhile, a different you is emerging, but it's just not fully formed yet. That's transformation. The mind will resist what the soul already knows. This is important because your mind will attempt to rationalize and justify everything to keep you small, to keep you where you are, because your mind is fearful. It doesn't like change. It's the one that says to you, gosh, that's risky. Let's not do it. Let's just stay in the spot we are and not take that action. Let's forget about that. It's not important. Let's just stay here. And it thinks it's in control, but it's not the great and powerful Oz. That is your soul. Energetically, the unseen, your soul is the Oz in this scenario that we're talking about. If you feel like you know something deep inside and yet you can't totally make sense out of it, or it feels a little bit off-putting, that can be resistance. It's fear-based. It's not you doing anything wrong. It's not you needing to fix anything. It's just that your mind is resisting whatever change you're on the brink of. So you can resist and you will resist. And I mean, I've done this a ton of times. There's so many things I've resisted. And you can huff and puff and wait for it to just knock some sense into you. But if you choose to not ignore the signs or those little nudges, and you choose change, you're choosing change not by disaster, but more so by design. Change by disaster, just waiting for it to smack you in the face, is usually the more painful experience. So, waiting for change is usually more painful than creating change in your own life. If you know something on a deep level, pursue that. Find out within yourself what it is you want and pursue it. And yes, it might have some risk. So, assess your risks, make a plan, but go after what it is you want, because waiting for change is not necessarily the way that you're going to get to where you want to be in life. You can go the linear path that way. But if you're wanting something totally different, or you want to feel different in your life, transformation is usually a process of very, very deep and intentional change. A quick example of this is, I've worked with executives who leave corporate roles to start their own ventures, and they assume the hardest part is going to be the business plan or the strategy, and it's not. The hardest part is actually letting go of who they thought they needed to be to step into a completely new way of being and leading and living. That's the hard part. And I saw this with my husband, Craig. And, I too went through it several years ago. But most recently, Craig, he had to go through this period of moving on from the identity that he was for almost 20 years in the part of corporate America that he was in for so long. And so that's not an easy feat. And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of moving on from the identity, the ego that believes that it is you and it runs the show. Transition is not just about change. It is about the process of becoming something entirely new and different. The way that transition impacts people is pretty profound as well. So mentally, it will show up as overthinking and, the fear of the unknown and the resistance to letting go. Emotionally, it might show up as anxiety and these spiraling thoughts, excitement, even grief. And so it can be a pretty tricky emotional experience. Physically, it may show up as restlessness or fatigue or just feelings of, exhaustion. And it could even cause hormonal changes within your body as well, because your stress levels might be a little different, wondering what's going to happen and stressing out about that. So the key here is that when we think about external change and transition, what we're really challenging ourselves to do is understand that this is an internal transformation, and to embrace that, and to understand that moving through that is not a linear process. You do not have a destination you are going towards. You have to let it unfold and be present with it, not try to fight it. When you notice yourself starting to fight, that's a time for you to relax and to do something else with your energy and attention. Transition is never something that is happening to you. It is something happening for you. So you have to trust that discomfort is a part of the process. And in this sense, transformation isn't about doing things differently. It is about being different. How do you recognize what this is like? Well, you can feel that maybe you don't define yourself in the way that you used to, or maybe the way that you used to define yourself just no longer suits you. Old habits and mindsets and patterns are starting to change, and maybe they're unrecognizable, or even relationships just no longer resonate. You sense that what's next hasn't fully revealed itself. There's something on the verge, but you just can't pinpoint what that is. You also know you can't go back. That is a key moment. The moment that I felt like there was so much that I was on the brink of, I had been so intentional in paying attention to my internal self, and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what was going to happen in my external world, but I knew that I was changing as a human being. I was changing as a person. And that was a really cool thing, because I would tell myself often, I'm not going back to the way I used to be. She is a distant memory and I'm not going back there. Many high achievers or high performers that I work with will go through a period where their old motives or motivations, such as money and status and recognition, don't drive them anymore. It's kind of disorienting for them at first. And I totally understand why. It's like they feel lost. What is really happening is that their consciousness is shifting into something greater. And I noticed when I went through this period, it was like I wanted to purge and simplify everything in my life because things in my house felt heavy and made me feel weighed down. And places I went just felt icky to me. And people I was around felt like I honestly couldn't be in their energy or around them anymore. It all just felt like it needed a reset. And so I changed so much of where I put myself, what I allowed to come into my mind, the people I interacted with, and the things that were in my space. And that was a very intentional change about consumption in my own way of being, my own human existence. So, in this sense, transformation isn't about fixing anything. It's about allowing yourself to evolve into who you're meant to be. You're not going to mentally choose when that happens. You're going to sense it. You're going to feel it. And that's what you're allowing. This is an internal process. This isn't about change out here. These are the things that you go after on a linear path and you make your plans and you make them happen. The internal transition and transformation that you move through, as that unfolds, you get new information from your new ways of being. You get new ideas. You get new levels of confidence and courage. And therefore, that will inform what you end up pursuing in the external world. See how that works? So the discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something new is emerging. And to me, that is empowering, not scary. It's empowering. Who you are on the other side of this transformation is exciting. Don't be terrified of it. Let it unfold. Embrace it. How do you move through this type of transformation? How do you move through transition like this with awareness and intentionality? Number one, you stop clinging to the old. Let go of outdated definitions of success, identity, and control. They do not serve you and they do not serve your future self. Keep the vision of who you know you are and who you're becoming front and center in your mind and remind yourself of that often. That's what will continue to inform your decisions moving forward in the external world. Number two, trust the process. You don't need to have all the answers. The steps reveal themselves after you take each step. So the action leads you to clarity, and it also leads you to confidence and courage. Small steps are great. Big leaps don't happen overnight, so don't put the pressure on yourself for the big leaps. Number three, shift from fear to curiosity. Instead of asking, what if this doesn't work? I want you to ask, what am I here to learn? What does this have to teach me? That reminds me of the saying, and I have a magnet on my refrigerator from friends that gave this to me years ago. It's a little saying that says, but what if I fail? And the response is, oh, darling, what if you fly? Keep that in mind. What if you fly? Be your own best friend. Talk to yourself how you deserve to be talked to. No one on their deathbed ever said they wish they could have put themselves down just one more day. And lastly, surround yourself with the right energy. The people around you either reinforce old patterns and old mindsets that don't serve you, or they support your evolution. So choose wisely and start to build your tribe intentionally. As your consciousness is rising, your vibration is shifting, you will emit a different energy, and therefore you will attract new energy. It will start to match how you're rising up, and some of the people in your life that you used to be around will start to fall away as well. My final thought on this is that transformation is an initiation. It's uncomfortable, but it's leading you to a version of yourself that is more aligned, more powerful, and more free. Remember, you are not breaking down, you are breaking through with transformation. Moving through a time of transition is simply transforming into a new way of being. That's it. Allow it and embrace it. The time is now to step up and move forward in your own life. What transition are you navigating right now? I would love to hear. I always love your reviews. So please leave a review or a rating. They do really help me get these messages out to a broader audience. As always, you can find me at erincoop.com or AuthenticallyEC on Instagram. And share this episode if it really resonated. I would so appreciate that. My book launches in September and pre-orders will be available this summer. So stay tuned or subscribe to my newsletter at erincoop.com/subscribe if you haven't already. I can't wait to get that book in your hands. And thank you as always for being here. Remember, the meaning you seek, the answers you yearn for, they often lie within. I encourage you to follow me at erincoop.com or AuthenticallyEC on Instagram. Subscribe now so you don't miss a step of our journey together. Until next time, manifest great things.